Isolde lived in a small village, surrounded by green fields, tall mountains, and a clear river. It was peaceful, with people waking up early to work. They farmed the land, made goods by hand, and traded with neighbors. The houses were simple, made of wood and straw. Everyone knew each other, and life was quiet and calm. Isolde's house was small, but it was nice. It had a clean wooden floor, a fireplace for cooking, and windows that let in the warm sun. She lived there with her husband, Lyle. Lyle was the blacksmith of the village. His arms were strong from working with metal every day, and his face was kind and honest. He loved his wife deeply. He was always busy making tools and repairing things for the villagers, but he tried to spend time with her when he could. Isolde was a beautiful woman, with long, dark hair and bright eyes. Her skin was smooth, and her face was gentle. People admired her everywhere she went. Men would often smile and wave when she walked through the village, and women would compliment her on her looks. But Isolde was not happy. She felt trapped in the quiet life of the village. Her heart longed for something more. She would often look at the tall hills in the distance and wonder what was beyond them. She knew that her life was safe and comfortable, but something inside her wanted more than just safety. One afternoon, as the sun started to set and the sky turned orange, Isolde walked down to the river. The air was cool, and the sound of water rushing over rocks made her feel peaceful. She often came here when she needed to think. As she walked along the bank, she noticed a young man working on his farm. He was quiet and calm, tilling the soil and planting seeds. His clothes were simple, covered in dirt, but there was something about him that caught her eye. His name was Aleron. He was not like the other men in the village. While many of the men liked to talk and show off, Aleron said little. He worked hard, and his face was always serious. His eyes were a soft brown, and they seemed to look past everything in the village. He didn't try to impress anyone with his looks or his words. He was humble, focused on the work he had to do. Isolde watched him from a distance for a while. There was something about his simple way of life that felt different from the usual excitement she saw around the village. He wasn't trying to win her attention, and that made her curious. When Aleron noticed her standing there, he smiled. It was a quiet smile, like he was not used to smiling much. But to Isolde, it was the most interesting smile she had ever seen. "Hello," he said, his voice soft. "Are you enjoying the view?" Isolde smiled back, feeling a small warmth in her chest. "Yes, it's beautiful here. I like coming by the river. It's peaceful." Aleron nodded. "The river is the heart of this village. It keeps everything alive." Isolde nodded, unsure what to say next. But there was something about him, something different. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the need to speak in a way that would make her the center of attention. Aileron didn't seem to care about her beauty. He seemed more interested in the world around him, in the land, and in his work. "I'm Isolde," she said after a moment. "Aileron," he replied with another soft smile. They talked for a while, and Isolde felt something strange stir inside her. There was no flirtation, no teasing, just simple conversation. It felt nice. After a while, she said goodbye and left. But she couldn't stop thinking about their meeting. Days passed, and Isolde found herself walking toward Aileron's farm more often. She told Lyle that she wanted to explore the village more, but the real reason was that she wanted to see Aileron. She enjoyed his company. He was honest and calm, and he never tried to win her over with pretty words or gifts. He simply treated her with kindness. At first, Aileron didn't understand why Isolde came by so often. She was married to Lyle, the blacksmith, and everyone in the village knew that Isolde was loved and admired by many. But he was kind to her, offering her water when she was thirsty, or a seat when she was tired. Over time, Isolde started to open up to him, telling him about her life, about her marriage to Lyle. "I'm not happy," she confessed one day, as they sat by the edge of his farm. "I love Lyle, but my life feels small. I long for something more. I want excitement. I want to see the world." Aileron listened quietly, nodding. He understood what she meant. He didn't have much in the way of excitement in his life, but he was content. He loved his farm, and he found peace in his work. But he saw the pain in her eyes. He could not imagine what it would be like to live a life where you had everything but still felt empty inside. "I don't know what to tell you," he said softly. "But if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." Isolde smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had come to the village looking for excitement, but what she found was something different. Aileron didn't offer her grand adventures or promises of a life full of thrills. Instead, he offered her something simple: kindness and understanding. As time went on, Isolde and Aileron spent more and more time together. The visits grew longer, and the conversations deeper. One afternoon, as Isolde walked toward Aileron's farm, she noticed that he was alone. Tessa, Aileron's younger sister, was away. Isolde approached him, feeling nervous. She knew that what they were doing was not right. But there was something inside her, something strong, telling her to go ahead. "Do you want to walk by the river with me?" she asked him. Aileron hesitated for a moment. He knew this wasn't normal. She was married, but but the pull he felt toward her was strong. He nodded slowly. "All right, let's go." They walked in silence for a while, the air cool and the sun starting to set. The river sang a quiet song, and the world around them felt peaceful. But inside, both of them knew they were crossing a line. As they walked, Isolde stopped and turned to face him. "I need to tell you something," she said. "I don't want to go back to my life with Lyle. I want more. With you." Alaron's heart raced, and he could feel the weight of her words. He wanted to say no, to tell her that this was wrong. But something inside him, something deep in his chest, pushed him forward. He kissed her then, softly, unsure, but certain that he could not stop now. Days turned into weeks, and Isolde and Alaron found themselves meeting more often. They would walk by the river or sit in the fields, talking about their lives and their dreams. Isolde began to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: excitement. Alaron was different from Lyle. He wasn't busy working all the time. He listened to her, and he made her feel special. He treated her with respect, something she felt was missing in her marriage. Each time they met, the attraction between them grew stronger. Their conversations became more intimate, and soon they couldn't stop themselves from being closer. One evening, as the stars twinkled in the sky, Isolde kissed Alaron again. This time, it was not just a simple kiss. It was full of longing, of desire for something more than the life she had with Lyle. Alaron hesitated at first, but then he kissed her back. The feeling was new to him. He had always admired Isolde from afar, but now, as she kissed him, it felt like everything he had dreamed of. But in the back of his mind, a small voice told him this was wrong. She was married, but his heart told him he couldn't resist her. He had never felt this way before. Isolde looked into Alaron's eyes after their kiss. "I want this," she whispered. "I want you." Alaron pulled back slightly, unsure of what to say. "But what about Lyle?" he asked quietly. "I don't love him the way I love you," she said softly, touching his cheek. "I feel alive when I'm with you." Alaron looked away, conflicted. He wanted to believe her, but something inside him told him that Isolde might be using him. Still, he couldn't help but feel that he was falling for her more and more each day. Tessa, Alaron's younger sister, noticed the change in him. He had become distant, his thoughts always elsewhere. She was concerned. Alaron had always been so calm and focused, but lately he seemed lost in his own thoughts. She didn't know why, but she had a feeling it had something to do with Isolde. One afternoon, while Alaron was working on the farm, Tessa decided to visit Isolde's house. She wanted to talk to her, to understand what was going on. She had heard rumors in the village, whispers about Isolde spending more time with her brother. Tessa knew that her brother admired Isolde, but she never thought it would go this far. When she arrived at Isolde's house, she was greeted with a friendly smile. Isolde invited her inside, and they sat together, talking about simple things at first. But Tessa's mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "Isolde," Tessa said, her voice nervous, "I need to ask you something. I've been seeing Aleron change. He's not the same lately. Is something going on between you two?" Isolde's heart skipped a beat. She had been careful to keep her secret with Aleron hidden, but now she could see that Tessa was noticing the changes. She smiled gently, though her heart raced. "Aleron is a good man," she said, her voice sweet. "He's just been working hard, and sometimes he gets lost in his thoughts." Tessa wasn't convinced. She looked at Isolde closely, but Isolde's calm demeanor made it hard to read her. "I just don't want him to get hurt," Tessa said softly. "He's always trusted you, Isolde. Please don't take advantage of him." Isolde's eyes narrowed, but she forced a smile. "Tessa, I would never hurt your brother. He's a good man. He's just someone I can talk to. I'm not trying to cause trouble." Tessa wasn't entirely sure, but she decided to trust Isolde for now. As she left, her heart felt heavy with worry. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but she didn't know what to do about it. Lyle noticed something was different about his wife. She had been distant lately, her eyes often lost in thought, and she didn't seem as interested in spending time with him as she once had. Lyle worked hard every day in his blacksmith shop, making tools and repairing things for the villagers. But when he returned home at night, the house felt colder. Isolde would smile at him, but it wasn't the same smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Lyle began to wonder if there was something wrong. He tried to talk to her, but she always found a way to brush him off. She told him she was just tired, or that she had been thinking about the future. But Lyle knew her better than that. He could see the change in her. One day, while walking through the village, Lyle overheard some villagers talking. He heard whispers of Isolde spending time with Aleron. At first, he didn't believe it. He trusted his wife completely. But as the rumor spread, doubts began to creep into his mind. That night, after another long day in the blacksmith shop, Lyle returned home early. Isolde was sitting by the fire, staring at the flames. When she saw him, she forced a smile. "Lyle, you're home early," she said softly. Lyle didn't smile back. He walked toward her, his face serious. "Isolde," he said, his voice low, "I need to ask you something. Is there something going on between you and Alaron? Isolde's heart raced. She had been caught. She tried to keep her composure, but her hands trembled slightly. What do you mean? She asked, her voice sounding innocent. I've heard things, Isolde. People are talking, Lyle said. His voice was tight with pain. Is there something I should know? For a moment, Isolde hesitated. Then she realized there was no way to hide the truth any longer. Yes, she said softly. There is something between me and Alaron. I'm sorry, Lyle. I wanted something more. Lyle's face fell. His eyes filled with hurt. I trusted you, Isolde. I loved you with all my heart. I'm sorry, Isolde said again, her voice full of regret. But I don't feel the same anymore. I can't stay in a life that doesn't make me happy. Lyle stood there, staring at her, his heart breaking. Then, what should I do now? He whispered. Isolde didn't answer. She looked away, unable to face the pain she had caused. The news of Isolde's affair with Alaron spread quickly through the village. The gossipers had a field day, whispering behind their hands as they passed by the blacksmith shop or Isolde's house. Lyle was devastated. His heart was shattered, and he didn't know what to do. He had spent his life building a future with Isolde, but now it was all crumbling apart. Alaron, too, was struggling. He had fallen in love with Isolde, but now, as the truth came out, he felt confused and guilty. He didn't want to hurt anyone, but he couldn't deny his feelings for her. He felt trapped. Isolde tried to reach out to Alaron, but he was distant. He couldn't look at her without feeling a deep sense of shame. He loved her, but he didn't know if he could keep being with someone who had caused so much pain.